So, how good was Jackson Storm? I mean, he's the fastest, most aerodynamic, and technologically advanced race car in the Piston Cup circuit. He took down Lightning McQueen with ease, was breaking course records everywhere he went, and he just seems to be the best racer the world has ever seen. But will he be able to fully leverage his advantage to become one of the greats? I mean, it's already clear that he's not perfect. Sure, there were moments where Jackson Storm seemed to be the ultimate next-gen race car, but he was also beaten by a racer in her debut in the Piston Cup circuit. Storm clearly had the drive to win, but he also was emotional, combative, and inexperienced. So where does that leave him? Will Jackson Storm rise to be the next king of racing and dominate the next-gen era of the Piston Cup? Or will he fail to live up to his raw potential? Well, by going through his stats, his background, and the history of the next gens, I want to determine whether or not he's deserving of the hype and how far his career will go. And by the way, if you're new here, hello, I'm Isaac. I'm a lifelong Disney fan and professional YouTuber, and I make videos to discuss Disney and animation's greatest stories, characters, and worlds, which I believe can help us remain connected to our childhood wonder, ultimately empowering us to follow our passions and pursue our dreams. Now, I think the big thing that you have to understand about Jackson Storm is that he was intended to be the next Lightning McQueen. And here's what I mean. Lightning McQueen came onto the scene in his rookie season as a 2006 custom-built Piston Cup racer. He was a first-of-his-kind race car, unlike anything the racing world had ever seen. Instead of being an upgraded or modified stock car like the racers of the past, Lightning was developed, designed, and constructed to be the most cutting-edge race car competing in the Piston Cup circuit. When he made his debut, he was the fastest race car in the world, and over the course of Lightning's career, he tied the king for the most Piston Cup victories in the history of the sport. But throughout most of Lightning's career, all of his competitors remained stock vehicles, like Cal Weathers was considered a Capital Motors Mark II, and Bobby Swift was a Brawny Motor Company Spark EA. Only Francesco Bernoulli's manufacturer took inspiration from Lightning McQueen when he was constructed as a Formula One experimental prototype, which, by the way, also paid out for Italian racing since Francesco took the spot as one of the fastest race cars in the world, a position that Jackson Storm wasn't even able to surpass in his prime. But even though Storm didn't beat Francesco's top speed, the racing world changed forever when Jackson Storm came onto the scene. You see, almost a decade after Lightning McQueen, Jackson Storm was introduced as a 2017 custom-built next-gen racer. He was the first race car in the Piston Cup circuit who was created as a spiritual successor to Lightning McQueen. And according to his stats and specifications, Jackson Storm was superior in every way. While Lightning had a full race V8 engine with 750 horsepower, Jackson Storm had a maximum performance V8 engine with 850 horsepower. While Lightning had a body made out of 24 gauge cold rolled sheet metal, Jackson Storm was built using carbon fiber and a metal composite. While Lightning may have been more aerodynamic compared to the blocky designs of his early competitors, Jackson Storm possessed a smooth and aggressive aerodynamic shape and a streamlined rear spoiler. He also had hydroformed alloy and steel chassis, a state-of-the-art magnetic suspension system, carbon disc brakes, and lightweight, low-profile Lightyear tires. Storm even possessed a high-capacity lithium-ion battery pack, which helped cut Storm's acceleration time from 4 seconds to 3.2 seconds. Oh, and on top of everything, Storm even had laser headlights. All of these advancements, of course, resulted in Jackson Storm having an unprecedented level of raw speed and performance. While Lightning had an average top speed of 200 miles per hour throughout his career, Jackson Storm raced at 207. In the simulator, we were able to see that he could consistently push himself to 210, and he was able to set a track record in Florida cruising at 213 miles per hour. But his official top speed ended up at 214 miles per hour, which is faster than any race car that has ever competed for the Piston Cup. Storm wasn't just fast though. By training in state-of-the-art simulators, wind tunnels, and facilities, Storm was able to fully leverage that speed in races through his ability to hold the optimal racing line lap after lap. While Lightning McQueen may have been the most advanced race car in the world when he debuted, Jackson Storm's complete application of modern analytics, technology, and training allowed him to immediately take the top spot in the Piston Cup circuit. Storm was successfully pushing the sport of racing farther than it had ever gone before, and I think that was by design. You see, I believe Jackson Storm was created with the express purpose of disrupting the racing world. And the reason is because Next Gen isn't just a shorthand for the new generation of race cars, it was also a brand name. It's actually revealed in sources like the book Meet the Cars that many of the new racers who replaced members of Lightning McQueen's generation all were created by a company called Next Gen. Chase Racelot is considered a Next Gen 2017 race car SA5. Ryan Inside Laney is a Next Gen SA2. Bubba Wheelhouse is a SA3, and Danny Swerves is a SB4. The grand majority of this new generation are all slight variations of the same Next Gen race car. And I think the only reason that they were all able to be manufactured is because of Storm. You see, I think Jackson Storm is the flagship who was produced to sell the superiority of next-gen race cars in the hopes that racing teams would rapidly adopt the next gens. And it worked. Next Gen chose to prioritize and invest into Jackson Storm to prove that they were the greatest manufacturers in the world, which meant that in many ways, Jackson Storm became the greatest race car in the world, even compared to the rest of the Next Gen race cars who would come after him. While most of the Next Gens were simpler and cheaper to produce since they were constrained by mass production limitations and budgets, Jackson Storm was custom built without any restrictions, which made him the superior race car. And this reshaped the racing landscape. Storm proved that Next Gen could create a race car with more raw performance than all of the Piston Cup racers who came before him. But the truth is that when Next Gen actually began to mass produce their vehicles for racing teams, these new racers just could not live up to Jackson Storm. In a similar way to how Lightning remained one of the fastest race cars in the Piston Cup until Next Gen constructed Jackson Storm, it seems for now that there currently is no manufacturer willing to invest into the creation of another custom-built race car who could beat Jackson Storm. But even with all of this in mind, the truth is, I don't think Jackson Storm will be able to be as dominant as Lightning McQueen. And one of the big reasons for that is the existence of Cruz Ramirez. You see, I believe that Lightning McQueen's legacy is being embodied today by two separate race cars. Of course, there's Jackson Storm, who continues Lightning McQueen's tradition of raw speed coming from technological innovation, but there's also Cruz Ramirez, who is inheriting Lightning's wisdom, lessons, and knowledge. While Jackson Storm may have been intended to be a spiritual successor to Lightning McQueen, the truth is that Cruz Ramirez is Lightning's true successor. And I don't think the ramifications of that should be underestimated. I mean, Lightning McQueen had it all as a race car. He was simultaneously the world's fastest racer, and he grew to become one of the wisest in his generation. With the fabulous Hudson Hornet as Lightning's mentor, Lightning was given the discipline he needed to harness all of his raw potential. He allowed his cocky and arrogant persona to fade away so that he could be molded into the great race car that Doc knew he was capable of becoming. Through Doc's guidance, Lightning McQueen established himself as one of the greatest all-around race cars in the world, and Jackson Storm just doesn't have that kind of support right now. Storm is only inheriting half of what made Lightning McQueen a legend, and I think this will limit how far he'll be able to go in his career. I mean, his specifications are impressive, but if stats were the only thing that determined who won the Piston Cup, then he should be able to win every race. But that's not how champions are made. Storm has already shown the world that he's beatable through the astonishing performance of Cruz Ramirez defeating him in her first race at the Florida 500. The Piston Cup is won through head-to-head racing, and the truth is that there are many race cars today with the speed and acceleration necessary to remain competitive against even someone like Jackson Storm. He is just not guaranteed to take the top spot year after year, especially when technology is continuing to advance at a rapid pace. You see, unlike Lightning McQueen, who is able to remain at the top of the racing world throughout his decade-long career, there's no way Jackson Storm will be able to hold that place for that long. With the rate of technological advancement accelerating, it's very possible that in just a few years, he will no longer be the most dominant race car on the track. which means that Jackson Storm isn't just racing against himself and the rest of the race cars in the Piston Cup circuit, he's also in a race against time. The hard truth that Jackson Storm has to accept is that his reign will end sooner than the racing world has ever seen. He has to fully leverage his advantages today to win as many Piston Cups as he can before his reign ends. Storm just cannot rely on his custom design. He needs to be acquiring skills, techniques, and strategies before he starts to lose his edge. But without a legend like Doc Hudson, the King, or Lightning McQueen in his corner, there's an uphill battle that he'll have to face. The question becomes, will Jackson Storm only be remembered as the rookie who took down Lightning McQueen, or will he rise to be more? How good will Jackson Storm really end up being? Well, let me be very clear, Jackson Storm will absolutely win Piston Cups. He's obviously one of the best race cars in the world, and he's received a lot of investment and is continuing to receive guidance from the vehicles over at NextGen. But it also seems like his purpose of introducing NextGen to the world has already been completed, which means as every year goes by, he is racing towards obsolescence. If Storm allows his ego, his unregulated emotions, and his unwillingness to accept true guidance, he's going to get left behind. Sure, he could continue to attempt to develop as a champion on his own, but that is the hardest and slowest path forward. And I just don't believe that he has the time to stagnate on his own when race cars like Cruz Ramirez are working every day to take the Piston Cup for themselves. So, when the hardships inevitably arrive in Storm's career, will he have the passion that is necessary to continue to fight? How committed will he be to his development when it's no longer obvious that he's the frontrunner? Does he have what it takes to truly become a champion? Right now, Jackson Storm has the opportunity to become one of the greats, but similarly to Cruz Ramirez, I don't believe he's going to surpass the legends who came before him. Consider following for more cars videos like this one, and finally, I'm Isaac Carlson. Thanks for watching, and have a magical day.